Article 3, Whether God Exists. I answer that the existence of God can be proved in 5 ways. The fourth way is taken from the gradation to be found in things. Among beings there are some more and some less good, true, noble, and the like. But more and less are predicated of different things according as they resemble in their different ways something which is the maximum, as a thing is said to be hotter according as it is more nearly resembles that which is hottest, so that there is something which is truest, something best, something noblest, and consequently something which is uttermost being. For those things that are greatest in truth are greatest in being, as it is written in Metaphysics 2. Now, the maximum in any genus is the cause of all in that genus, as fire, which is the maximum heat, is the cause of all hot things. Therefore, there must also be something which is to all beings the cause of their being, goodness, and every other perfection, and this we call God. Okay, a little allusion there to Aristotle's book, Metaphysics. This argument is, I think, the most controversial of the 5. Throughout much of history until recently, there has been an overarching and unifying ontological paradigm. I am speaking here of the great chain of being. Rocks certainly exist, but they aren't very good. That is, rocks aren't very high on the ontological ladder, if you will. The next rung is perhaps plants. Next come animals, then humans, after humans angels, and at the top of the ladder, God. This metaphysical ladder found its heyday in the thinking and disciples of Plotinus, or in the school of thought known as Neoplatonism. Nowadays, this view is not so popular. I was reading The Greatest Show on Earth recently by Richard Dawkins. There is a section in there where he describes how foolish the great chain of being idea was and how much more enlightened we are now because of Neo-Darwinian evolution. He then proceeded to describe a great chain of being in the biological realm as proof that we no longer believe in such foolish things as the great chain of being. Well, I wouldn't expect anything less from Dr. Dawkins. Just because the idea has fallen out of favor, however, that in no way means that the idea is not true. And to my way of thinking, at least, the concept of the great chain of being is it's obvious intuitively that it has to be right. At least that's what I personally think. Humans are better than dogs, after all. Would you save a puppy or a human infant from a burning building if you could only save one? One of the two. But even if you don't wish to accept the great chain of being per se and whole cloth, it is not easy to deny that there is a gradation to certain things within life. Not all women are equally beautiful. I don't want to toot my own horn, but some men are more handsome than others. I'm joking. But some statements are more or less truthful than others, so greater and lesser degrees of a quality are only measurable by appeal to a standard. A just ruling in a human court of law is only possible if first there is some absolute standard of justice. Good and bad deeds are only possible if first there is absolute goodness, what Plato called the good, with a capital G. You can love your dog, but you will tend to love your children more than you love your dog. But these degrees of love are only possible because they participate in absolute love with a capital L. Now, can complete and total love with a capital L be anything but loving? Can love be anything but loving? Can a loving being be anything but personal? Who could this personal, omnibenevolent being be? The Dumox gives us the answer. This we call God. Yes, God does in fact exist. Well, we've gone through the first 4 of the 5 ways of Aquinas, and we'll be looking next at the 5th and final way, the teleological argument. And I mentioned the omnibenevolence of God. I don't really care much for that term myself, but it is in popular usage, so God is completely good, and that's all I mean by omnibenevolent. And this, as Aquinas says, all men call God, this loving, transcendent being that does exist. So God exists, and we'll look at a 5th reason for supposing so in the next video on the 5th way, the teleological argument. Shalom.